Welcome to Her Fantasy Football. You can hear us on Blog Talk Radio /Her Fantasy Football and on iTunes. You can also hear us on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Saturday night from 8 to 10 Eastern. Make sure to subscribe to us on herfantasyfootball.com so you can know what we're up to and play our fun dice game every Sunday morning, on FanDuel. Also, you can chat with us on Twitter at HerFantasyFB and on Facebook /Her Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I am Brandon Marianne Lee.
And it's week 10. Dun, da, da, da. Double digits. We're in the double digits. We've got 4 teams on bye, so get them out of your lineup. The Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, San Diego Chargers, and San Francisco 49ers. We tend not to take much time on the teams that are going on bye, but Andrew Luck, no mas.
Nope.
4 to 6 weeks, right?
4 to 6 weeks. I just don't understand how he can have the same injury as Keenan Allen, right? But he only gets 4 to 6 weeks, and Keenan Allen was season long, right? Very odd to me. Very odd.
Well, I think they're desperate to get him back.
Yeah, 6 weeks. 6 weeks is
for your kidney health.
No, but 6 weeks is basically a kidney.
No, it is. I mean, I guess they're hoping playoffs. Playoffs?
That's true. The Chargers may have completely given up playoff hope at this point. It's like, no.
The Colts? Oh, the Chargers, right. With Keenan
He's
Allen,
done for
sure. That's true.
That is possible.
Point. That's good. That's a good call.
But I mean, the real problem here is the 49ers are on bye. We're sorry.
Although I thought they've been on bye all season. Weird.
I was kind of jazzed talking about Gabbert. We'll have to wait till next week, though.
I know. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I will say, though, so I do radio on game day from 11 to 1 Eastern on Bleacher Report Radio on SiriusXM. And we're sitting there talking, and we're going through the matchups, and we get to this game, and he's like, yeah, and you just don't start from San Francisco, and like how big of a blowout it's going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And I go, okay, I agree. But I'm going to say something crazy. I think there's a possibility they didn't prepare for them, and we could be a little surprised. I don't think it's a big possibility, but that is a possibility. And sure enough, arrogant Atlanta did not prepare for the San Francisco 49ers and got beat. And you know who I don't like on the Atlanta Falcons.
Do share, Brandon.
Kyle Shanahan.
There it is. We got it in. We got it in the show early.
That was actually what all this is about.
Oh, man. Nice.
We may be on bye, but we're going to get that in.
Brandon she'll share the hate she has for Kyle Shanahan. That's what I do.
Hilarious.
Well done, Brandon. Well done.
Hilarious.
I don't think we're even 5 minutes in.
Nope, we're not.
Yep.
I love it. Thank you, Brandon. Again, get them out of your lineup. Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, San Diego Chargers, and San Francisco 49ers. Let's go on to Thursday night's game. Buffalo Bills 4-4, the New York Jets 5-3, and Brandon will be there cheering her team on.
Yeah.
Be there in a Jets ugly sweater that I just got from Amazon.
Ooh. Ugly sweater, like Christmas ugly sweater style?
Yeah, I'll bring it out. Hold on. You can start talking.
Just grabbing it.
More reasons to come watch us on YouTube, guys. Ugly sweaters. You can view
That's
that.
right. Awesome. Go ahead, Ash.
Well, I'm excited for this game, mainly because I just like these two teams. I probably don't. Oh, there it is. Wow, it really is Christmassy. I was joking. It's got Christmas trees on it.
That's nice. Oh, it's the one from the NFL Network.
Yeah.
Or NFL
real
Shop Sound.
yeah.
Yeah.
The NFL shop stuff with all the commercials all over the place.
Yeah. With Brandon's favorite commercial where everybody has a different team in the family.
Oh.
No one has loyalty.
No one has loyalty.
Well, hopefully if you're a Bills or a Jets fan, you got some loyalty. And that you also go buy another ugly sweater like Brandon did. But
Revenge game,
exactly. LeSean McCoy, who hurt his shoulder late in the fourth quarter, said that he'll be fine. The bad news, LeSean McCoy was limited in practice on Wednesday, but he's allegedly probable for Thursday. The good news, LeSean McCoy didn't require an MRI on what is being described as a shoulder strain. Now, if he doesn't play, hopefully you've handcuffed yourself with Carlos Williams, who had no problem stepping up and filling for McCoy's role. 2 touchdowns, rushed for their 110 yards. And in a little history brief here, again, we're early in the show for history, but so be it. Carlos Williams could become the second player in NFL history to score a touchdown in each of his first 6 games if he scores this week. And I think that they're going to try to get this record for him.
That's great.
I think so
And
too.
I hope they do. I think they're probably going to do a bit more of a kind of a share. I think you're fine to play either one of them. I think they'll probably both do fine. So, I mean, it's a tough game as, they just get the second fewest points to running backs, but this is a pretty rush-heavy offense. So I think you're going to be okay. Now, Tyrod Taylor's fantasy points, while not awful, because he only had 181 yards of touchdown, he took a hit because the game plan was really heavy on the rush. And I think it's going to be the same this week. It's not a great matchup, but I think he's still going to put up decent points for you. Maybe I'm just being optimistic there.
No, I love it.
But Sammy Watkins, he had a much better game than I anticipated, guys.
He did not die in the end zone.
He did not die in the end zone. He got a little hurt, but he did not die in the end zone. So, what I like about it is he got 8 passes for 168 yards, including a long ball 44-yard catch that was in the third quarter for a touchdown. But unfortunately, Sammy was spotted walking with a noticeable limp. It was a very obvious limp, which I'm sure is due to his ankle injury. So I'm guessing the ankle's not quite healed. He didn't die, but he's not doing great.
But he's been wounded.
He probably either re-aggravated it or he maybe, wasn't as healed as they thought. But to some extent, who cares? He did great. If that's how he plays when he's on 100%, I'm fine with that. Now, what is interesting, again, we're going up against the Jets. Now, Watkins watched a lot of tape last week. He said up to even 2 to 3 years back on cornerback Brent Grimes. And he said it gave him advantage as he knew how to sell him on the inside. So can he do the same against Revis?
No.
I'm not so sure, especially with the
sorry, that wasn't a real question? Yeah. I just answered it. No.
I mean, I'm not going to compare Grimes or Revis. And I do, what I like is the preparation that he's taken to, like, hone in on a quarterback that he thinks they're going to, a shutdown corner they will put on him. But Grimes is not Revis. I think Revis will still, and Sammy Watkins has proven to generally not do well against shutdown corners. So I don't love him this week, especially with a beat-up ankle. Not my favorite. We'll go to the Jets. Well, Chris Ivory had a bit of a bipolar game last week. I don't know if you guys watched it, but he rushed 23 times, so he was still getting the rock a lot. But for a pathetic 26 yards, he did score 2 touchdowns, so he was able to salvage a semi-fantasy relevant game for you. And he had an additional 22 yards on 3 receptions, but who's counting? Now, he did practice Wednesday, and he's listed as probable, whereas Stephen Ridley did not practice Wednesday. And even though he's listed probable, Todd Bowles said he's only 50-50 chance to go. So more than likely it will be Ivory, even though he had just an okay game. It kind of is what it is. But
he's still a stud. Do you know how many people would be begging to have Chris Ivory in their lineups? Stop it. Deion Lewis is out. Le'Veon Bell's out.
No, I agree. You've got to plan.
Tears, people.
So
tears.
Don't be afraid of the Stephen Ridley situation because, again, he's 50-50. They're still going to give the ball to Chris Ivory. You're playing him. You're also playing Eric Decker, who had another great game, the touchdown machine. Thank you, Mr. Decker,
favorite player in the
for being
right now.
The best wide receiver 2 on a team. I will say Allen Hurns is giving him a run for his money, though.
Allen Hurns is legit.
It's legit.
So is Decker. They're both great.
I have them in so many teams together. I'm like,
that's great.
To get that kind of production out of a wide receiver 2 on a team is basically unheard of, and especially with the consistency of Decker and Hurns. I feel like I'm slightly leaning Decker just historically wise with the touchdown counts, but Hurns, you're doing pretty good. No, you're no slouch. Brandon Marshall, while having a hurt ankle and toe, was still able to have a touchdown and is able to reel in 44 yards. He was limited during practice, but if he goes, you play him. You don't bench Brandon Marshall. You look like a fool if you do that. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, I swear this is one of my longer ones. I apologize. But he is considering surgery on his left thumb, guys, after this week's game. Now, Fitzpatrick could play after the operation if the team immobilizes the thumb like they were able to with the kind of like patched up job that they did. This would be a little bit more secure. But apparently, Fitzpatrick could run the risk of having a torn ligament, and it could shrink and whatnot if he waits till the end of the season. So, which is what he planned to do. So that would require a more complex surgery, which could even include, a graft to be done to reattach it to the bone. So right now is the time to do it. And allegedly, he might not even miss a game. He might be able to have the surgery and come back. So that'd be great. And then, in terms of kickers, again, they matter. Nick Folk said that he felt a little pop in his right hand quadricep. Sorry.
That was crazy. Yeah.
While practicing for the kickoff. Yep, he has a grade 1 quadricep strain. He's not expected to play this week, and in fact, he might be out up to 8 weeks.
And Fitzgerald usually holds the ball, right? And so he couldn't do it because his hand's all messed up.
He's got a jacked up hand.
Nick Folk is holding the ball for the guy who does the punts, right? And it was like a hot mess watching that, but that was kind of fun.
Hot mess.
I love Nick Folk, so that's sad.
Yeah, is what it is.
6 weeks. Bummer. All right, let's move on to Sunday morning games. Detroit Lions 1-7 at the Green Bay Packers 6-2.
Balanced game.
Yep, this will be super snappy as it's the Lions, and they have not been doing well. Allegedly, Matthew Stafford's future in Detroit is very much in doubt following the 2015 season, according to sources. Well, he's been playing subpar, so I can understand why maybe his future is in doubt. I'm not sure how much stock I'm going to put in that. But allegedly, that's the deal.
Get him out of there. Go. He can go be awesome somewhere else.
He could.
Maybe it's just like a bad chemistry with coaches and whatever. I mean, you don't really hear much crap about Stafford, right?
No. He
Locker
seems
room
nice.
stuff.
Locker room, he seems fine. Coaches like him.
Plays for him. I don't know. A bad offensive line mixed with no running game, and I don't know. But maybe it's like the best thing for him to get out of Detroit.
We'll have to wait and see. It has no fantasy relevance to you right now because, he's not playing great, so you shouldn't be playing him. I think he will throw right around 200 yards, maybe connect with Calvin Johnson for a touchdown, and he'll have a few turnovers as well. I don't love him, and neither should you. Do not play him. Calvin Johnson ankle is said to play against the Green Bay Packers is what he thinks he will be able to play. He was a limited participant in practice Wednesday, but I'm not too worried. This is Calvin Johnson. This is like
he doesn't need to practice to play.
It's the vet rest. Why even push it? He doesn't need to practice. If he goes, you play him, and I expect him to play. I don't love any of the running backs this week. Stay away from them as always. But I do like Eric Ebron this week.
Yes.
It is a good matchup with the Packers. You have the 10th most points at tight ends, so I do think he could do something. So I like Ebron.
I agree. I do want to say Martha Ford came out and said, some words when they fired the GM, and she's 92 years old. She's a woman. She owns the team after her husband died, but she's been very active. She's been at every practice. Well, not every practice, but she was there at spring training and a lot of the practices. She wants to make sure that they know that the owners are involved. She's actually a really interesting woman. So she comes out. She does this like intense move, right? And then like, all these sports writers are like, here's Martha Ford today, and here she is in 1948 at her wedding. And I'm like, only a female owner would have her wedding photos posted.
Right. And 70 years ago to like compare her age, which is so lovely.
Well, and what offended me to some extent, they're like, she made a rash decision. And I'm like, only because she's a woman are you saying that she made a rash
It's not even
decision.
close to rash. They've been working for her forever.
Yeah. It was really interesting. I didn't want to get into it because I didn't want to like go off on my
I can't.
on a bender, but
well, I'm going to talk about Greg Hardy later. So, Green Bay Packers though is fine. This is a great matchup for them. They got their groove back. It was lovely in the second half of the Carolina Panthers game. Aaron Rodgers became a human. Randall Cobb became a human. Interestingly enough, though, Aaron Rodgers historically doesn't play that well against Detroit. He hasn't thrown for over 300 yards against Detroit since 2011. Weird, right?
That's surprising.
Yeah. Totally.
Some teams just have your number.
They do.
But I think he's back. I think he'll be fine. He's way better at home. I'm still playing him. The Lions give up the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, so I feel fine about it. Randall Cobb caught 4 passes for 99 yards and a touchdown last week, but he had 12 targets. So 8 of those he didn't catch.
That's not fuzzy math, people. That is facts.
What?
The 4 catches were impactful, but
sure,
maybe we could get a few more catches, maybe.
Yes. It's a little Mike Evans-y for me.
Some of those catches were pretty tough. He was truly trying to get the ball to him, and there was some really good defense on Cobb.
Don't you defend him, Courtney.
Well, my husband owns him, so all I could hear was like,
what kind of pass was that? Yeah.
So it was his first touchdown since week 3. He should be fine in this matchup. Hopefully you held on to James Starks because guess what? Mike McCarthy came out and said that Starks is the #1 running back right now.
So
he has
sad.
earned that opportunity, quote unquote. I don't know what happened to Eddie Lacy. He supposedly has a groin injury, although he is participating in practice. He hasn't topped 38 rushing yards since week 4. This is Lacy. It's upsetting because this is a great matchup, but it looks like it's going to be Starks moving forward. But you could totally get trolled, and it could be Eddie Lacy.
So true.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself. It is what it is. I think James Jones is going to make a big comeback. I know he hasn't, been great lately. The last couple of weeks he hasn't. But he's scored a touchdown in every single home game so far this season. They're back home. I still think he's an end zone target. I feel good about him. He still saw 6 targets last week, so I don't know. He's super cheap in daily. I think he's getting another touchdown. Maybe it's just me, but that's how I feel. Richard Rodgers had a nice game versus the Panthers, 5 catches for only 19 yards, but 2 touchdowns, so you always like that. But that's hard to repeat. Classic boomer bust guy. I don't think they're going to need him this week because Detroit's not a great team, so you never know, but I'm sure you can find someone with more consistent stats. And start Green Bay's defense because the Lions are a mess.
What?
No way.
They're a mess.
All right. Dallas Cowboys 2-6. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3-5.
Should have
All
Should have got a sip before she dives into Greg Hardy. Right?
These are my 2 favorite teams with the women. Well, we're gonna get into the Greg Hardy drama just for 1 second. I just want to say that his Twitter handle, inferring that he is the victim here, is repulsive. And Deadspin obviously came out with the article where you could see the bruises. I'm sure most people have heard about that. But now they came out with an article that actually is the entire 126-page transcript of the meeting where they reinstated Greg Hardy.
Oh.
Yeah, I read it. There's a lot of slut shaming.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is the worst.
Right. Chill out.
Wow.
Talking about certain sexual things that they had done as if that
Had anything to do
is
with
an open invitation to be thrown in a bathtub. Although he said that she slipped on a scale, or sorry, she threw herself into the bathtub. I'm like, who throws themselves into a bathtub?
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And because she ran away from the cops because she was scared, it was actually admitting guilt. Very weird. Anyway, just go read it. That's all I'm going to leave. And I'm just glad that they lost the game last week based off of Greg Hardy missing a tackle. And I think this is all karma. I think Carolina's getting good karma. Dallas is getting bad karma. I think it's a mistake.
That's true. That's true. They are playing great. Maybe
The shift is what it is.
well.
I think Romo and Des Bryant have a case to sue ownership for signing Greg Hardy because that bad karma affected their season. I think we're going to see a lawsuit
The
here.
science part of this program. Yeah.
It's all coming together, guys. It's all coming together.
I'm not sure karma will hold up in court, but you know what? Worth a try.
Hey.
Worth a try.
Yeah.
You know what? Something's got to explain this. You know what else needs to be explained? Matt Castle getting 23.66 FanDuel points or fantasy points last week.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Go Castle.
Wow. It's another good matchup, but he hasn't gone for over 8 fantasy points before that, so buyer beware.
He might be the good karma on the team because he does the no shave Movember and he has the nastiest looking handlebar mustache. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It's like the super light blonde where you're not quite sure if something's on their face, and then you're like, oh no, that's facial hair. It's so ugly.
Oh, that's Matt Castle.
He's like, I tried to get everyone to do it with me, but nobody would do it. And I'm like, and that's really sad they wouldn't do No Shave November, and especially when they saw that glorious mess on your face.
Yeah.
Like Castle.
Well, much of Castle's attention was on Cole Beasley last week. Beasley
Yeah.
was targeted 11 times. He caught 9 of those passes for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. So there you go, people that always tweet us about Cole Beasley. You're welcome. There's your
his moment.
But prior to that, he hadn't scored a touchdown all season and only went for over 49 yards once. So there you go. More overusage of Darren McFadden. Last week he carried the ball 27 times. No touchdowns. He also caught one of his 2 targets for 5 yards. Christian Michael was in for 0 snaps. And Joseph Randall isn't on the team anymore. So they're going to drive Darren McFadden into the ground. but make no mistake, he will be driven into the ground.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It makes me sad 'cause I'm like, when is it gonna happen? When is it gonna happen?
I'm very scared. I keep looking at him like with my eyes wide, and I'm like,
But it's gonna happen. I think Corn said this last week. It's gonna happen the game Romo comes back to continue the complete collapse of the Cowboys,
Yep.
Well, it's like
lawsuits
Le'Veon Bell,
against
Ben
Greg Hardy
Roethlisberger.
and ownership.
just like Le'Veon Bell, Ben Roethlisberger. Yep. One comes back, the other one goes.
I mean, I'm not wishing injury, by the way. I don't want him to be injured. I'm just saying, if I had the
No.
most injured
Yeah.
running back in all of football history, I would not be running him 27 times a game. Des Bryant is a super stud, though. That'll only continue to improve. He'll especially be great once Romo comes back in Week 11, so you want to start him. And Jason Witten hasn't been a factor. Sorry, it's true. Only one double-digit game since Week 1. Non-factor until Romo is back. The Bucs, this is simpler. The Cowboys give up the second most points to opposing running backs. So I think Doug Martin will get his groove back. I think Charles Sims is like a sneaky sleeper play if you're really desperate. Tampa Bay is actually a top 10 defense at the Cowboys are actually a top 10 defense. At defending everything else. So 8th fewest to quarterbacks, 5th fewest to wide receivers, and 10th fewest to tight ends. Mike Evans drives me crazy. And I have told you this since the beginning of the season. He has 6 drops last week that they accounted for him. 6. Overall, he was targeted 19 times and only caught 8.
Amazing.
Yes. 11 catches didn't happen, people.
Did you see his
152
response
yards.
about people complaining about all his dropped balls? And he's like, drop balls? Like, who cares? If my worst game's 150, basically, are you complaining? It's like, first of all, your worst game is not 150 yards.
No,
Let's
you've
be
had
clear
many
on
worse.
that.
Yeah, let's be clear.
You've had plenty worse games, but that's cute that you think your worst game is when you get 150 yards.
I think it was when you were targeted 3 times and caught 0 your first game back.
But it's hard.
That's
Like, how do you
nice.
not start someone who's getting almost 20 targets?
You have to start them.
You have to start him. And I hate saying that. Brandon's
But
gonna
he was in
disagree.
a cushy matchup.
He
That's
wasn't
the
a- he
best.
wasn't a cushy matchup. That
And
is
now
true.
Dallas gives up the 5th fewest points to wide receivers.
Yeah.
So
they still
he's not
target
going to
him
have the
so
same opportunity.
much.
He's not going to have 152 yards.
No, I don't
He's
think
the
he
only
will
player
either.
there. Vincent Jackson's out. Lewis Murphy's out.
Because while he says that's his best, I would argue that is his best, actually.
Absolutely, it's his best.
150 yards is like his ceiling.
And listen, it was raining, and I understand, but he's caught 44.4% of the passes that have gone to him all season.
Right.
Less than 50% of the season. This is who he is.
So awful.
Not debatable. That's who he is. And it's not Jameis Winston's fault. Believe me, I would love it to be. Anyway, speaking about Jameis Winston, he has been playing well, and surprisingly, he's kept his nose clean. He's at a tougher matchup with Dallas, obviously giving up the 8th fewest quarterbacks, but I would take a risk on him this week. He has like a 17-point floor, which is crazy. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is never coming back, people. I'm sorry. I have given up. Until I see him play, I cannot suggest him for you. Until they say for sure he's on the field and he catches a pass, he's going to blow up on your bench, and that's just the way it is. But he keeps not playing. It's risky.
Be okay with it. I think I'd even keep him on bench even if they said he was going to play for a week.
Yeah, just the same. All right, my favorite team this year, other than my home team, obviously, the Carolina Panthers, 8-0, Tennessee Titans, 2-6.
Love the Panthers. Love the Panthers.
Love
Play
the
the Carolina
Panthers.
defense because the Tennessee Titans give up the absolute most points to defenses. Cam, I'm sorry. I didn't think he'd be that good last week. Unbelievable. The guy who started him. Yeah. Also, what a jerk. Trying to give him
Oh my gosh!
the
Yeah,
ball
taking the ball
situation.
so he couldn't give it to the kid. His
And
ex former player.
Did you hear that the kid actually, his dad had just died?
Oh my
What?
god!
Yes. He
It was
didn't know
Julius
this.
Pepper, right? They're
He
doing
was a
it to him?
6-year-old kid who was taken by his 2 grandparents to this game who he finally gave the ball to and ended up like making his life basically because his dad just died.
Wait, did Cam get the ball?
Yeah, he wouldn't
he
chase
did.
it
He went
down.
and chased it down to give it to this kid.
Yeah.
Cam Newton's one of my favorite people. And he is someone that I want to meet in the offseason. It's my goal. Literally, it's my number 1 goal of the
You
offseason.
hear that, Cam? We want to meet you.
Yeah, we do.
When
You're
I
gonna be
sing
on his
hello
Instagram
with
session.
my eyes closed and my earphones, I picture you in the crowd.
Hello.
I always think of Cam with that commercial with the little kids. They're like, "I'm your mom's favorite player." You know, like and just Cam's look on his face. I'm just like, oh man, I love Cam Newton.
I just do. He's so good.
He's so good.
So stick with Cam, you guys. This is a tough matchup, but hey, he doesn't care. He's just doing. He's doing Cam Newton.
Doing Cam, and he's healthy
Jonathan's-
finally. So
Finally. Jonathan Stewart keeps getting 20-plus carries a game, but he hasn't done much with them as of late. He's had tough matchups, too, and Cam Newton's kind of done better in those tough matchups, but I think he's going to bounce back at some point. Tennessee gives up the 6th fewest points to opposing running backs. He's questionable with an ankle injury. Supposedly he'll be fine. But you don't have better options right now. All of these running backs are going down like flies. You're starting Jonathan Stewart, and you're just glad he's getting so many carries. You hope he gets in the end zone. Sorry. That's life.
Yep.
Greg Olsen is always a must-play, but this matchup is delicious because they give up the 7th most to tight ends. Lovely. And I think after the crazy bad game versus Indianapolis, Cam is having trust issues with Ted Ginn Jr. It's just not happening. Corey Brown scored last week, 2 catches for 50 yards. You can't really count on that. I don't know. The wide receivers, you just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I think Ted Ginn Jr. is going to come back this week. I think they punished him and didn't throw it to him last week. I think this week they're going to go back to him. He's a playmaker.
He's
a playmaker. I mean, he might drop balls, but he makes plays. So
I'm going to be crazy here. I think we are starting to see, and I said it all along, Devin Funchess is going to come on strong the second half, and he's the guy that Cam's looking at in the end zone. For some reason, he feels that Devin Funchess
last week
is going to be more, a sure bet for the end zone in terms of catching the ball. So I do think, like we said, the rookie's going to have a rough first half, but good second half. Devin Funchess.
It's like kind of one of my favorite receiving cores just because it's like so, I mean, not to like cover for fantasy necessarily, but like to watch because it's exciting. The whole team seems like babies, and then there's Greg Olsen. So it's like little babies running around.
Although Ted Ginn's not young.
No, but they seem like that. It's just like this, like, it's the best.
They're all Tavon Austin.
Chaos. Yeah.
They are.
You're all Tavon Austin.
It's a team full of Tavon Austins and Kenny Stills.
Man, that makes me sad.
It's infuriating. And then Greg Olsen's the largest human I've ever seen.
Right. And then there's Greg Olsen.
Every time.
All right, the Tennessee Titans. Last week I told you to play everyone from the Titans, and they did well.
I love Delaney Walker.
Oh my gosh. Delaney Walker, 23.5 points, went off. He's on my team. I was playing against my husband. I ended his fantasy season, he says. It was a good moment.
I know. I was wondering, I was like, man, wonder what's going on in the Kirby house right now.
I know. I almost sent you guys all the text messages being like, hey, we're not getting divorced. We're doing okay.
I did send a tweet though where I was like, did Delaney Walker have a single catch that hadn't been tipped, and he does some like miraculous like snagging it back in, just like the one.
Beautiful.
Was it an end zone catch? But otherwise, everything was
tipped,
and he's just grabbing balls everywhere.
It's amazing. Yeah. I think he only caught one ball that actually came straight from Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
I think so. It's crazy. Well, Marcus Mariota scored 33.34 points. He was awesome, amazing. Antonio Andrews got you 11 points.
Hey.
Totally enough. And all of the wide receivers got 7 fantasy points in standard leagues. All of them got 7, and that's perfect. That is the best wide receiver 3 flex option when you have 6 teams on bye and you're digging at the barrel, right? 7 points out of guys who have been getting 1 point all season. I'm happy with it. Even the backup tight end Anthony Fasano got 9.34 points, so it was game on for Tennessee last week.
Bonanza.
Yeah. Anyways, that was last week. This week they face the Panthers, so sorry. You can go ahead and drop them all now. All done.
I disagree with you. Delaney is my man.
You're still Delaney, yeah.
And Antonio Andrews.
Walker, for sure. That's no doubt. All season you should keep him. You can play Antonio Andrews as a flex. I'm not loving him as a wide receiver or running back too much this week, but as a flex, I'm okay with it. And pick up Darrell Green Beckham if he's still available. He saw 10 targets last week. And with Kendall Wright still not activated, I think he's the #1 tight end in Tennessee, you guys. So it might be scary, but if he's available, go get him. Go get him now. Chicago
Did you see
Bears.
Mike Mularkey, by the way, his press conference?
No.
He's like, I've been coaching for a long time, and this win really meant a lot to me. He like cried.
Aww.
Yeah.
God, I love Tennessee.
I want them to be better. Another female owner.
Bam. Well, you know what? Just wait. They just need a minute to grow up as well. And they'll get there.
Yeah, they're an immature team.
Yep.
You know,
they'll get
it's
there.
good because they will grow together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chicago Bears 3-5, and the St. Louis Rams 4-4.
Well, let's keep this pithy, shall we? Alshon Jeffrey has come back like a beast.
Yeah.
Bear indeed. I'm playing him, and I don't care about the matchup. I'm sorry. I don't care.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler isn't exactly the poster boy for elite quarterbacking, but he's had 17 to 19 points since coming back from injury consistently. Literally, that's it. He'll never get you over 20, but he'll never get you below 17, and I believe that even with the St. Louis Rams. I know that they're a tough matchup, but seriously, I think the floor is really high, and if you're someone that's in a weird situation because you really banked on Phillip Rivers or, you definitely didn't bank on Colin Kaepernick, but you know what I'm saying. There's a possibility you might need Jay Cutler today, and I don't hate him the way that his matchup looks because he's playing consistent ball. Jeremy Langford played up to the high standard that we set for him against the San Diego Chargers last week. He carried the ball 18 times for 72 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and he caught 3 of his 4 targets for 70 yards. Good job.
He was on fire in those catches.
He was on fire, and I was getting really nervous because when they announced the starters, did you see it was?
Yeah, he was
Carey?
a starter.
And I'm like, what? I was so angry because we had I'm going to look up her name, but she was doing DraftKings, and she had thousands of dollars on the line. She's like, I played Langford. I went with it, guys. And then I was like, I don't want to let her down. She ended up putting $75,000.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy. Look it up, though, because that was really awesome getting her tweets during.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. So I was so excited for her.
St. Louis is way tougher against the run, giving up the 11th fewest. But I understand if you need to play him for upside. It's pretty dynamic. I was impressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Martellus Bennett had a better game last week, still not elite like we want him to be. He caught 8 of his 9 targets for 57 yards and a touchdown, which is good. It's for a tight end, absolutely. Certainly you love the targets. I don't know. This was his first double-digit game since week 4, and then there was one other double-digit game in week 1. But I think that when Jay Cutler's in, we need to calm down. It's going to be fine. Chicago's defense has been so-so, but the St. Louis Rams offense gives up a lot of points. Very suspect. Yeah. So if you're desperate, you might want to go with Chicago. Maybe. It's cute, but I'm okay with it.
Maybe. The winner was Courtney C. Lang, winning $75,000. Congratulations! I'm so glad Langford came through because I got really nervous.
I know.
I was really angry when they announced, and they didn't even put Langford in for her first few runs. I was like, what's going on here? What is going on here?
And John Fox is so crazy that I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It all worked out. It all worked out. Congratulations, Courtney.
$75,000.
That's right. Now on to the Rams. Todd Gurley continues to impress. Even though this was one of his worst games.
I know, and he's still a baller.
I'll take it, yeah. He carried the ball 24 times. He averaged only 3.7 yards per attempt, but he's able to get 89 rushing yards. So what are people complaining about? He was able to find the end zone, so you were just fine. And he was also able to get 3 catches for 20 yards. Todd Gurley's a baller. If this is the floor, you should be thanking your lucky stars.
Absolutely.
These are the same people that complain about Gronk.
It's ridiculous. It's true. Gurley's a man. Move on. Tavon Austin has established himself as the only other offensive player of note on this team. He's a dual threat in which he had 4 catches for 15 yards and 8 carries for 66 yards. Teams haven't quite figured him out. So he's a sneaky flex possibility.
Every week.
Every week. And it's hard to judge him on whether it's receivers or running backs because they're going to use him in whichever one suits the team best against.
I have him ranked pretty high in our rankings. I think I have him ranked as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I mean, they give the 11th most points to wide receivers and the 13th fewest to running backs. So he'd probably be a little bit heavier on the receiver side this week, but that's great. They've got a player they can do that with. So, Again, I don't love him in wide receiver position, but I like him in a flex. I think you've got better wide receiver options, but he's not a bad flex. Not a bad flex at all.
Now, Tavon Austin's one of the top scoring wide receivers in the league.
He is.
but he just makes me so
Upside
nervous.
is huge.
The upside's too
Oh.
big.
The floor is really
It's too
low.
It's
I'd
really
rather
low
take the
floor.
risk. Rather-
But the risk.
Really low
Especially
floor.
those, like,
So
if you're
worth
playing
it.
like daily fantasy, you guys.
Daily, he's fantastic.
Yeah, because you have to accept he might get you 0, but he could win you your week.
Right.
He absolutely can. It's a little bit
He's
rougher
cheap.
in a season-long league to start. But you're right. He's one of the top scoring wide receivers. Is just that floor is so low. Anyway, Stedman Bailey. He has been suspended 4 games for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. Someone was caught smoking the reefer. 4 games, he is out. But with that suspension, Wes Welker, who was formerly with the Broncos and prior to that with the Patriots, agreed to terms on a 1-year deal. The good about Wes
Also,
Welker,
like, so little.
well, that was Molly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He was
I did that.
spiked. His drink was
His drink was
spiked.
spiked. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Let bygones be bygones. But what's good about Wes Welker is
Maybe.
maybe, well, who knows? He's super quick and he can work the underneath routes with elegance. And he's a smart player. I will say that. I love watching him play. However, I am seriously worried about his health as concussions have played a big time role in his career.
Is he going to have a fucking helmet again?
He's got to, right? He's going to have the incredibly padded helmet. But I'm serious. I'm seriously worried about his well-being, and I kind of wish someone from the NFL would step in and say, "No more, no more. No game is worth risking your brain being mush." And he has had so many concussions. I literally am scared for him.
So what's funny is that Wes Welker, was drafted, and my husband and he has the day off because he works for the government. It's Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you. We appreciate you. And so we're talking about it, and we said the same things. Like, the Rams are bananas for picking Wes Welker up. Like, he's just asking for it. And again, we never wish injury on anybody, but, like, it worries me. I'm actually kind of scared to watch the games.
Yeah.
And like, so what did we do? We sat down and watched the Frontlines League of Denial from 2013. If you haven't seen it, oh my God, it's amazing. And it's about concussions, right? Because we were like, whatever. But it's the little concussions actually that are the most dangerous.
It is the worst.
Yeah, the offensive line.
The offensive line get it the worst.
But still, I mean, it scares me. I'm like, is he going to be the first NFL player to, like, not be able to get up off the field? Like, it frightens me. Like, I'm really worried that he's back.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing too. Is that I'm sure the Rams, I'm sure, aren't going to sit there and say we're not going to pick this player up because of his his health. They should to some extent, but they're probably like, you know what? There's a chance he won't get hurt in 4 games, and then we'll have Stedman Bailey back. But at the end of the day, Wes Welker is a better receiver than Stedman Bailey.
Well, the Rams are so desperate, right? I mean,
and so what are they going to do? But I mean, but Wes Welker, didn't he retire last year, or just no team pick him up?
No team picked him up.
Just
saying that he
wanted to play.
Yeah, and so it's hard. Like it's hard for any player of that caliber to accept at some point that the jig is up.
I know. Even Kirk Cousins was, or Kurt, not Cousins. Kurt Warner was like, I can come back and play last year, and he's like 45.
But I mean,
Brett Favre thinks he can play.
Oh, and his Wranglers.
Yeah,
he'd wear them.
Always think he can hurt. I wish all the goodness in the world for Wes Welker. I think he's a fantastic.
Love him. We love him.
I'm very nervous for him.
Don't pick him up. All right. New Orleans Saints 4-5 at the Washington Redskins 3-5.
This should be an interesting game. Drew Brees threw for 387 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception against the Titans last week.
Ballin'.
But a great game. And he's had 10 touchdown passes in the last 2 weeks. So he's definitely got to be your QB1. And you should kind of put the entire first half of the season performance out of your head because he was very average. Drew Brees is back. The Breezy that we love is here to stay.
Now, beautiful.
That's right. That's right. Now, Brandon Cooks, I think he can be taken seriously again. Yeah. He had 4 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Things are starting to kind of fall more into play. Now, the fantastic news is that Willie Snead is also still being targeted a lot. We were nervous that this might not be the case once Cooks kind of returns back to old form, but Snead had 6 catches, more than Cooks, for 95 yards with more yards. So while Cooks got the touchdown and Snead did not, Snead would have done better week in, week out, and Snead dropped a touchdown, so he would have still played better. I would still go Snead over Cooks, I will say that.
There's
Benjamin
fantasy
Watson.
points to go around, right? I mean, there's plenty.
There are when Breeze is being Breeze,
Yeah.
there is enough fantasy points to go around.
Yeah.
And that was a problem the first half of the season. It was Breeze was just not all there.
No, his injury was much more serious than we
Oh, I
thought.
think he was
Yeah.
just mourning Jimmy Graham's loss.
That too.
But they're in a good place now.
Hello. Yeah. And then Jimmy Graham was like, "Why am I in hell?"
Why'd I deserve this?
I bet they listen to Adele's song together and they think about each other. It's like-
They just cry.
Just cry.
So good. Sorry, y'all.
Anyway,
Our cousin Kate sent me a snap on Snapchat of her crying listening to Adele.
did she really? Did she mean to?
Yeah, she meant to. No, she was like, because it was like, being nice. And because I'm on Snapchat and I never use it because I'm too old. None of my friends are on it, so I'm just there alone.
No.
On Snapchat.
I'm not
I
on
was like,
Snapchat, but I'm just surprised our cousin sent you a Snapchat of her.
Well, I do social media like as a job, so I wanted to try out Snapchat, and then I realized no one I knew was on Snapchat, and then I was like,
That's
"Am I a creeper
hilarious.
at a high school party?" I did not
Yes.
mean to do that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So anyway, our cousin sent me a snap.
Who's much younger than us.
Yeah, she
Well,
is.
I'm glad she used it for something other than
We can
Private
edit this part
conversation.
out.
yeah. That's all I know Snapchat for.
Oh my god. Too
Anyway,
funny.
Benjamin Watson. He had 5 catches for 60 yards. So his streak of being used in a major way still continues. Not a great matchup for him this week, though. So you might want to look elsewhere. But then again, it's Drew Brees. So, like you said, there's enough to go around. Tight ends are tight. He's got good upside right now. So Mark Ingram had 26 total touches and 96 total yards. Sadly, he only had 54 of them from rushing, and that was off 22 carries. Don't love that. The good news, though, for Ingram owners is that C.J. Spiller only played 6 snaps the entire game. Granted, we cannot guarantee that ratio will be the same this week because it is the Saints, and this is C.J. Spiller, and he seems to weasel his way in. But we can be optimistic. Now, Ingram needs to find the end zone because he has not scored in the past 2 weeks. So we need that to increase. And then Luke McCown was scheduled to undergo back surgery Tuesday, and he will miss the rest of the 2015 season. Due to this, they have signed Matt Flynn. This is not fantasy relevant to you, but just want to mention because it's sad, and I like Luke McCown.
Matt Flynn is winning at life. That guy's made so much
God,
money
is he
for
a backup?
so little.
Yeah, he really is winning at life. I wish I was Matt Flynn. I do. Redskins time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Pierre Garçon continues to be consistent. Like Courtney said, he's one of those guys, like you were talking about with the Titans receivers. He's always good for like 5 to 8 points every week. That might not be enough for you, but then again, it very well might be enough for you in a deep league with buys to be able to put someone in a flex who you know won't zero out. He's not going to zero out on you. He's always going to get you some points. But he maxes out at right around 7 or 8 points. He's not going to get you more than that.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. Kirk Cousins was 22 for 40 for 217 yards against the Patriots, in which they lost, which no one was surprised. But he did play better than what his numbers say. I will say that. He is not a fantasy-relevant player for you, and don't be too tempted to play him against a horrible Saints defense.
I'm playing him this week.
I am too.
Playing him?
I'm playing him in
have
a
to.
10-man league, and I don't even feel bad about it. I'm sitting Carson Palmer, and I dropped Ryan Tannehill to pick up Kirk Cousins, and I feel good.
Wow.
Good.
Wow. Let's chat at the end of this week and see how you're feeling.
The Saints, man, I'm telling you, they're like
Yeah,
good
the Saints
mojo.
are-
They like give the other team just like hey,
The defense is
have a
horrible.
time.
The defense is
Yeah.
awful. I
I'm
mean,
in. I'm sold. Kirk it up.
they do give up the most points to quarterbacks. So
Yes, please. And he's got Deshaun back, and it's the offense is alive.
I don't hate you. I just think you've got better options. Now, granted, you're in a 10-team league.
don't hate
Is this a 2-quarterback league?
No, this is
There-
our family league.
Well, a different week I might hate her. Well, who are you playing? Are you playing me this week?
I don't know.
Start Kirk Cousins then.
I don't know.
Do it. Do it.
I'm doing it.
I'm
Anyway.
starting him in like a 14-person league where I lost Tony Romo, and I've been
Well, that
screaming.
makes sense. But you're not going to like play him over Blake Bortles or someone like that, Tyrod Taylor.
I'm
Don't
playing him
do
over
it.
Carson Palmer, the most consistent quarterback in the league.
Yeah, but he's playing at Seattle. That's
Yes.
That's
makes-
it's a rough matchup. But
You're welcome.
well, you know who you're not playing, Courtney.
You're good at fantasy, Courtney. we confirm.
Yeah, Courtney likes the risky plays. So that's why we like her.
That's right.
But can we take a moment, guys, and laugh about the Redskins running backs at least one more time?
No, they're so heinous.
Matt
It's not funny
Jones
anymore.
led his team with 27 yards on 11 carries.
Amazing.
He was the leader. That makes me want to cry. But like Courtney said, Deshaun Jackson, he was back. He only had 3 catches on 6 targets for 15 yards, which is pretty sad and pathetic. Not what we were expecting, but I feel like this week will be a good week. It's a good matchup. He's going to bounce back. You need to get kind of regrouped in the system. I like it. And I like Jordan Reed.
Yep.
Ugh, I don't usually say that, but he's a
He's
big
healthy.
body. The Cousins like to target in the end zone. Therefore, he is a must-play for me this week with the Saints giving up the second most points to tight ends. He has scored 3 touchdowns in the past 2 games. Mama likes. Play Jordan Reed.
Play Jordan Reed. I'm into it. Miami Dolphins 3-5. Philadelphia Eagles 4-4. The Dolphins. All right. They had a tough loss again last week against the Bills. This week is a tough matchup as well. Poor Dolphins. Lamar Miller was by far the best person on the team last week. This is a tough matchup for Miller, but I think he's still playing him. Running back 2, guys. He'll find the end zone. He's found the end zone the last 4 weeks. I'm into it. Let's do it, Miller.
Ooh, you think so?
He has found the end zone the last 4 weeks. I think he's going to find the end zone again. Let's do it. I think he's got it.
All
Do you
right.
know the only running back to score on Philadelphia so far this year is Mike Tolbert?
I know.
my
Weird.
God.
How weird is that?
That is a
Mike
crazy
Tolbert.
stat.
It's totally odd. I think Miller's going to do it.
All right, I like
I'm
it.
into it. You can go ahead and bench Tannehill. He just can't be trusted. And we really need Tannehill to throw some touchdowns since he hasn't done that in the last few weeks. Landry still saw 13 targets, so you're going to start him. Rashard Matthews only saw 4 targets. That's a little bit concerning, but I think he will have a bounce back week against the Philadelphia defense that gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. Deep leagues, Kenny Stills is a boomer bust player, so it's not going to change this week. If you need somebody like that, if you really need a high upside, then I guess this matchup's yours. So good luck with that. And again, 61% of Yahoo leagues own Jordan Cameron. You're all Yahoos yourself. He is really bad. Stop it.
That's no
Why do you
this whole
own him?
outline.
Stop it.
You were all Yahoos yourself.
Yeah, you are.
And there's so many good tight ends this year too.
So
You're
many.
really
there are
crazy.
better options.
I picked up Clive Wolford last week
Yeah.
and played him, and he found the end zone for the Oakland Raiders, if you didn't know who he played for, because I didn't before this week either. And he got a touchdown. Jordan Cameron can't do that. No, he can't. So stop it. All right, Eagles. Jordan Matthews is back from the dead. Wow, I'm really happy. Love him. He had his best game of the season with 133 yards and a touchdown. But play him at your own risk, you guys. 19 points might be sad on your bench, but I'm telling you, 4 points on your roster is a lot sadder. You know, that's serious Adele tears.
Yeah.
So Miami gives up the 16th most fantasy points to wide receivers,
Hello?
right in the middle. Hello. You screwed me over again, Matthews.
Did you
So-
see the meme of Adele and Lionel Richie?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
'cause it's
yes.
the same song.
I know, but he's like
No, it's like Lionel Richie's like he's in his video.
picks
He's
up
like,
her phone first. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
he
Adele goes hello, and he goes hello, and then she's like oh, and hangs
and then
up
she
on
hangs
him.
up, and he just like looks like what the
With the
It's
flip
amazing.
phone.
with the flip phone. So good.
so good.
So good. Oh, I
The
love
phone is
that.
so stupid. It takes me so many angry places.
I love it. All right, Nelson Aguilar is back in full for practice. Just so you know, his best game of the season, healthy, was 4.4 points. So.
No, thank you. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Let everybody else go pick him up. You just stay away from that. He plays on the Chip Kelly offense, and we've seen what that's done to Jordan Matthews. The running game is the best thing and the most consistent thing for Philly, so you can go ahead and start DeMarco Murray and feel good about it. Ryan Matthews is an okay running back too in deep leagues or as a flex in any league. It's fabulous. I just love him. Thank you. Finally consistency. Sam Bradford is worthless. He has as many interceptions as touchdowns, so you can move on from that. And Caleb Sturgis is the Phillies kicker. Pick him up. He is only owned in 27% of leagues, and he has averaged 12 fantasy points in the last 4 games. Hello? Snap on.
Kickers don't matter, Courtney.
Yeah, Caleb Sturgis matters. And you can play the Eagles defense as well. Cleveland Browns 2-7, the Pittsburgh Steelers 5-4.
Okay. Josh McCown is questionable still with his rib injury, but he's more optimistic. So I'm going to act like he's going to play this week, because if he's not going to play, we just don't start anybody.
Fair enough.
Johnny Manziel actually wasn't as terrible as his stat line looked. Actually, he was okay. The offensive line was really bad. It was a weird game anyway, and he played well until the end, and then he just kind of imploded. But if Johnny Manziel does play, you need to sit Gary Barnidge. But if Josh McCown plays, you go Barnidge all day, all night, I don't care. From week 3 to week 8, he's had a touchdown and or 100-plus yards in every single outing. It's unreal. It's a good matchup. They give up the 5th most points to tight ends. Go for it. I believe McCown will be back. This should be good. Travis Benjamin has really fallen off, and actually that's with McCown and with Manziel, so I'm just being honest with you here. He hasn't scored over 3 fantasy points since week 6. His last touchdown was in week 3. It's double digits now, by the way, people. It's a good matchup, so you'd like to be optimistic, but don't be foolish. It's kind of a GPP play only, or really, really, really desperate. Duke Johnson should be a star on this team. I have no idea why they don't use him more. He is much more productive in PPR leagues, absolutely, but in standard leagues, he's borderline fill-in play. Pittsburgh's is tough against the run, but they're not so strong against the pass with running backs. So Duke Johnson should have a decent game. But that coaching staff, it's like they just don't get it.
No.
Like they just don't get it. When you watch Duke Johnson play, you're like, this is the guy. But anyway, Isaiah Crowell continues to get touches, which is annoying, around 10 a game. It's ticking off all the Duke Johnson owners out there, but it is what it is. Do you remember when we were debating Duke Johnson versus David Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duke won.
Duke was the guy.
Duke wins. It's a weird year, people. And
Chris Johnson. That was a thing.
Yeah. And remember, we were like, you guys, they want to play Chris Johnson. People were like, that's crazy.
Yeah, like,
Isn't
no.
it? Browns defense could be a sneaky play against Landry Jones. I'm just putting that out there. It's sneaky. It's a risk, but it could be a risk that pulls off.
Landry Jones is no Michael Vick, Brandon, Marianne Lee.
No,
That's true.
He is
It's
not.
not Fabu either. His game that he started, he was subpar.
Details. All right, sad news for the Steelers owners. Ben Roethlisberger hurt his foot last week and is listed as doubtful this week against the Browns. This is funny. This is what Ben says. The bye will come at a good time, but I'm not even going to rule myself out this week. I'm going to take it one day at a time. But then Mike Tomlin said the door is slightly ajar for Ben this week.
Well, I truly don't want to risk it. Ben
so
probably
good.
could play because Ben plays through injuries all the time, which is what makes Ben such a great fantasy pickup.
He's.
But I'm sure they're thinking, we've got a bye next week, whatever, let's just rest you, get you 100% healthy. We're not going to risk this.
Yeah, and I get that. I totally understand. So I understand where it's coming from. And Landry Jones is such a better option than Michael Vick when it comes to, for your wide receivers that you're playing, right? If Ben does not play, you can completely take Keith Miller out of the equation. He's gone, just done. Don't do it.
No go.
Antonio Brown had more yards than most quarterbacks did last week. Did you see that? 284 yards receiving.
Off. Oh.
Bananas. Yeah, that was crazy. Sadly, that will not be the case if Landry Jones is behind center, because we all know that Landry likes going to a little person named Martavius Bryant. In weeks 6 and 7, when Landry was the quarterback, Bryant had 26 and 11 fantasy points, so you can for sure start Bryant with Landry under center. Oh, and you can start the number 1 running back for week 9, D'Angelo Williams. Rock and roll! My bold prediction on SiriusXM was true. kind of false because I said that Langford and Williams were going to be top 5. They were actually top 4. They're amazing.
Yeah, they were.
Nice.
They were.
I can't remember
You
what my
were
bold
totally
prediction
right.
was. What was yours, Brennan?
Oh, mine was wrong.
It was crazy, if I recall correctly. What was it?
It was that Kirk Cousins was going to be a top 5 play.
Yeah, that didn't
It's going to be
happen.
one this week, though.
What was
Say it
mine?
again.
Does anyone
Give me
remember
your bold
what?
prediction again? I don't remember what it was. It was bad. Sure, it wasn't correct.
I'm just saying it's supposed to be bold.
Mine
was
wasn't that
bold.
bold.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't, I guess, that bold. Mine was the backups tops, but I guess it wasn't that bold. Sorry.
I put
I
together
thought it was
I put together lineups for NBC Sports for FanDuel each week, and I had both Williams and Landry in my lineup that I put together for that, and Odell Beckham Jr. and Julio Jones and Michael Crabtree and Delaney Walker, and the New York Jets defense. But my only misstep was Eli Manning. But like if I had actually played that lineup, I would have won like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like my lineup was. This is my job, but it was really good. It was really good.
And Eli's tough. Eli's tough.
Eli's up and down. You just don't know.
You just don't know. He's the Kenny Stills quarterback. All right,
Yes.
Jacksonville Jaguars 2-6. The Baltimore Ravens 2-6.
That was good.
That was good, right?
So Blake Bortles threw for 381 yards, so that was more than Antonio Brown. And he had a pair of touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble. This is the kind of play you can expect from Blake Bortles. He turns the ball over, but he still gets you good fantasy points.
Great fantasy,
So-
not great regular.
So you need to still play him. Like, just kind of like, take that part of the equation that he fumbles, and throws interceptions, because he throws a ton. So you're still going to get points. Now, Bortles completed 24 of his 40 attempts. And this could be a really interesting matchup this week with the Ravens, who give up the second most points to quarterbacks. And they've been giving up 33 pass plays of 20 or more yards and 8 pass plays of 40 or more yards. This sounds yummy to me when it comes to Blake Bortles and Alan Hearns and Allen Robinson. Yes, please. I am excited. Now, Allen Hearns was awesome again. He caught 5 passes for 122 yards and a touchdown against the Jets. Hearns has scored in 6 straight games, people. 6. He is pure fantasy gold. But in scary news, he was seen in a walking boot on his left foot on Monday, and he apparently suffered a sprain of some nature in the final interception of last week's game. He is optimistic that he'll play, and he has tossed out the ever-so-scary walking boot, so that is the good news. However, his foot could still be considered an issue, as he was held out of practice Wednesday. Then again, it could just be precautionary, and I'm sure they're like, why even practice him? Let the foot rest so that he can play. I think he's going to be okay. And again, as we said, arguably the best, the second best wide receiver 2 option in fantasy right now. Julius Thomas, I just can't. Ugh. Don't do it. Not a great matchup for TJ Yeldon either, but more than likely you will have to play him.
Yeah.
At a minimum in a flex role. And I think that he will get you at least 9 points in a standard league, so don't be too upset. I think he's going to do okay. Allen Robinson is a must-start every week, especially weeks when a team give up the second most points to wide receivers. So it could be fantasy gold. I love it.
On the other side, it's fantasy gold too. I think this matchup is going to have a lot of points in it, you guys, and it's a lot of these like sleeper people that no one's playing. So this is a sneaky game to get people in.
This is the Tennessee Titans of Week 9.
Yeah.
Exactly. Joe Flacco actually has 4 games with 20 or more fantasy points, which is crazy in standard leagues. I don't hate him in this matchup, especially after the bye, even without Steve Smith Sr. It's a nice matchup. Jacksonville gets the 7th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Kamar Aiken is now the wide receiver 1, and then Chris Givens and Jeremy Ross will have to do more. Coach Harbaugh says that he's hopeful that Rashard Perryman, joke of the year, will be able to play in the last 4 games, the wide receiver that may never be. That PCL injury.
Lingering.
Last 4 games, though, you guys, like... That's still 3 weeks away. Anyway, Darren Waller's out for the season. Dennis Pitta has been officially ruled out for this season. His doctors were like, no.
I don't know why anybody picks Dennis Pitta up. This makes me angry.
You guys, I'm sad for him. It's a Wes Welker situation.
It is. It is a Wes Welker situation.
2 hip surgeries in 2 years is not good. Justin Forsett has a nice matchup this week. He's still getting a decent amount of touches, hasn't done a whole lot with it, but I think this is a good bounce back, especially with that Stevenson Sr.
I hope so. I really need him.
Me too.
All right, let's move on to the afternoon games. Minnesota Vikings 6-2 at the Oakland Raiders 4-4. The
Another sleeper game.
Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater got knocked out Sunday
That's
against
crazy.
St. Louis. But thus far, he's passed all concussion protocols and is on pace to play Sunday against the Raiders, which is just amazing. So,
Yep.
I mean, when he actually woke up, like, he seemed like he had it together right then, you know? It's
weird.
very odd.
I think he's just
man.
it hit just right to knock him out.
Yeah, just like, wow. It was really scary, but really good results, so that's awesome.
I love Teddy Bridgewater.
Me too, but I don't think you're starting him, but that's a different story. If he does not start, you should really look for other options for Stephon Diggs, you guys. I'm just saying. I love him. I do. He's great. But without Bridgewater, I just am not fully confident in the passing game because nobody wants to hear that Sean Hill's throwing you the ball.
True story.
Nobody.
But no one wanted to hear that Matt Castle was throwing the ball either.
And they did not want him throwing him the ball for the first 3 weeks, right? I mean, it took a
Well,
while for that
That's
to
true.
really
That's
pan
valid,
out.
Courtney. Yep.
So sure, Sean Hill might work out if for some reason Bridgewater had to be out for multiple weeks. Hopefully Bridgewater plays and it's not a big deal. You're playing Stephon Diggs. If you're in deep leagues, you don't have better options. You're playing Diggs anyways. But just saying, it might not be what you want. And AP is really the only must start for this team this week. The Raiders' defense is pretty good. They don't allow a lot of points to defenses either, so there's that too. So what I meant to say is that the Minnesota Vikings defense is good as well. This is like a weird defense because both of these defenses are decent. You know, I think the Raiders' defense is underestimated. You know, I think that they actually, you know, are better than they seem on paper. But I don't think I'm going to play either one either because I think this might be a fantasy, like, weird moment going on between these two teams. Especially the Raiders, obviously, because they're
both in the
fire.
playoffs right now.
I know, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
cute.
But you are right, Courtney. Both defenses are like sneakily good.
Yeah.
Right, because like the Vikings give up the 5th fewest points to quarterbacks, 8th fewest to running backs, 8th fewest to wide receivers. Now tight ends, they're not great on. They give the 14th most to tight ends, but 14th fewest to kickers and 12th fewest to defenses. With all that said, Oakland's been on fire.
Fire.
Let's start with who's not been on fire, and that's Latavius Murray. Now, he has officially been put on my personal list of an injury-prone player, and that is not a good list to be on.
Right.
Ashley's filled with hate.
I am filled with, well, yeah, no, it's true. I'm not even going to argue it. I'm filled with hate for players that are injury-prone. And he left in the 3rd quarter last week after suffering a helmet-to-helmet hit in which he got a concussion. Oh, yeah, and he also had to fumble on that hit. And he's now in the least concussion protocol after the helmet-to-helmet hit that knocked him out for the rest of the game. Now, Murray's last concussion kept him out for 2 weeks or so I can't really be sure if he's actually going to play this week. Tywan Jones is the next guy in line if Murray can't go, but the bad news is that Murray did not practice Wednesday. Again, check your injury reports. He might play, but he's injury prone, guys. I feel this is already his 2nd concussion of the season. Maybe be his 3rd. I'm trying to think here. I don't like it, but I do love Derek Carr. I do.
Oh,
He
yeah.
made 24 of 44 passes for 301 yards. He had 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. If you are not playing him and trusting him yet, I can't help you. Just stop listening to the show. I've got nothing to do for you. Michael Crabtree is 3rd in line for me as the best wide receiver 2 option behind Eric Decker and Alan Hearns. He had 7 receptions for 108 yards, and count them up, 2 touchdowns against the Steelers. Crabtree's playing great. There's no reason for you to not play Crabtree.
He's cheap and daily, too.
Cheap, so cheap, and he's consistent. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, Amari Cooper had 7 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown and was targeted 13 times, which is fantastic. You can't bench this guy unless he is up against a shutdown corner, and that's not the case this week, so you can play him as well.
Perfect. New England Patriots 8-0 at the New York Giants 5-4.
Would be boring if it wasn't for injuries, which is just sad because the whole analysis is start everyone, especially against the Giants defense. This is almost cheating. It's not even nice, actually. Dion Lewis, though, tore his ACL, and this is really sad. He's out for the season. Now, what we're really going to talk about now is we're back to you can't trust a running back in a Bill Belichick offense. I'm sorry, you can't do it.
No.
Now he's going to troll you with LeGarrette Blount, Brandon Bolden, who also scored a touchdown last week, and now everyone's talking about James White. I want nothing to do with any of these players. Dion Lewis was the only one he was committed to, you guys. This is scary. Every week we're going to say one of them's going to go off, and we don't know which one, and we literally do not know which one. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying, and I'm just flinging my arms around because I'm that upset.
It's like, cheers.
Cheers. No fly zone. Get out. Julian Edelman's questionable with a knee injury. He should be fine, but, it's worth noting. And Brand LaFell went for over 100 yards last week. I think he's overtaken Amendola for the guy that's going to either get 100 yards or 0 yards. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yay. Oh, the Giants. First of all, I hope you played the Giants defense like I told you to. They had 13 fantasy points, second in the fantasy points for week 9.
Woo!
You can now drop them or find another streaming defense this week since they are facing the Patriots and you don't play defenses against the Patriots. That's silly. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Don't do that. Another player that you should bench for this week only is kicker Josh Brown. He's been fabulous. I know, he's been great. But it's just the reality of it is that the Patriots give up the second fewest fantasy points to kickers because they always have to go for 2 at the end of the game to catch up to the points, the Patriots. Yeah. And they're not going to ever stop to do a field goal, right? Because they have to go on 4th down to get that touchdown. So it's like, it's sad. I love Josh Brown. Don't, if you're in a deep league, don't, drop him. Try not to. Try to just, stash him because he is great, but it's just the reality of it. You can start Odell Beckham Jr. as always. Ruben Randall comes off the injury report after having a pretty good game last week. He is fine in a wide receiver 3 flex because we all know there will be some garbage points in this game to be had. And Ruben Randall will probably reap a lot of that benefit.
Exactly.
I would not play Rashad Jennings again this week. The Patriots give up the 5th fewest points to running backs. You can play Vereen in PPR, but only if you have no other options. I know he's been playing well, but this is just not a good matchup. It's just not my favorite. Larry Donnell is still sidelined, and rookie Will Tye will be replacing him. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't start either of them. As for Eli Manning, I hope you have a better, more reliable option. I'm not saying don't play him, but I wouldn't. I don't know. Yeah. The risk is just too high for my blood. I mean, I like boomer bust players, but Eli just gives me a headache. I just can't. I can't do it. It's not.
It's tough stuff.
Yeah, Daly's great because it's 1 week it's fine, then move on, and it's no big deal. But to have him on your season-long league, hurts me. Hurts me to even think about. All right, Kansas City Chiefs 3-5. The Denver Broncos 7-1.
It's a bad matchup for Kansas City, my friends. It's a bad matchup. Unless the defense crumbles like it did against the Indianapolis Colts.
I know.
And also keep Talib's out because he's a jerk and decided to
believe he
stick
just
fingers in someone's
blatantly
eye.
poked Dwayne Allen.
It's disgusting. I don't even listen. I'm a Broncos fan, and it's disgusting. Bye. Get your suspension on. Alex Smith had a killer game before the bye against Detroit in London. 27.6 fantasy points and standard scoring, multiple touchdowns, including one that he ran in. 78 yards rushing as well. 78 yards, you guys. Yeah, we have running backs that we're starting that we're hopeful they get 78 yards.
Yeah,
how sad is that? Still, Denver has a tough defense.
The Washington Redskins can't even get 78 yards
combined.
Together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, they would die if they got that. They'd be woohoo! Macklin scored a touchdown in London. Hopefully he's fully healed this week. Remember, it was questionable whether or not he could come in, the concussion and what have you, but looks like everything's good to go. I think you could play him. I actually think he'll keep Talib being out as a benefit for Macklin. And
I don't know. Harris is
I'm sure Chris Harris Jr. will be on him, but
the depth at the Broncos
Chris Conley
is pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, Chris Conley is pretty good too. I mean, yeah, but I think that if you have Macklin, I don't think you have to bench him. I don't think it's scary, like it would be if they were both there.
Not as scary. I don't love it, but you did probably don't have better options anyway.
I don't think he's gonna blow up.
No.
I think a lot of people don't have better options than Macklin.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they have a better option to start in his place.
Yeah. Charkandrick West is a must play. Sorry, guys. Anyone who's getting 20 plus carries per game is a must play. And he gets a touchdown every week. Do it. Travis Kelce also got a touchdown in the big Lions blowout, but that was his first touchdown since week 1. Ouch. I don't expect that this week. FYI.
All right. Denver Broncos. I think it is safe to say you are not playing Peyton Manning in leagues where you only have one quarterback. I hope so.
Yeah.
'Cause if
He
you
was
are,
dropped in our family league, and Carson cried.
I know.
It's a
Tim,
moment.
my
It's a
Tim
moment.
dropped him.
Yeah.
I guess ESPN got so many letters they had to put him on the list of droppable players because he was not droppable for quite a while. He's sad. He did have his best game since week 3, and that was 15 fantasy points. Now he's on the injury report with a foot injury. Not good, you guys. He has yet to have a game this season where he did not turn the ball over at least once. 4 more interceptions than tight ends on the year, or touchdowns on the year, so not good. You are starting Demaryius Thomas. Kansas City gives up the most fantasy points to wide receivers.
This will be the first time that Demaryius Thomas's mother is going to be able to see him play football.
No, she's not. She can't. She still has to she still has time where she can't leave the state and stuff. So
no.
she won't be able to be there. But the story broke, and I know it's sick and twisted, but deaths, babies, fights, and this motherly issue is the perfect equation for Demaryius Thomas to have a great game. So I'm just saying, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a great story, though. You guys should, look it up. It's kind of sad. Emmanuel Sanders popped up on the injury report as well this week with an ankle injury. He played through the injury on Sunday and managed 90 yards and a touchdown. So if you were starting him, just keep an eye on the injury report. The run game was awful last week. Anderson and Hillman are sharing carries, and although Hillman is still injured, there are better matchups out there this week, you guys. Last time they played the Chiefs, they were both awful as well. So I'm giving you some suggestions on people who you can play. Hey, guys, James Starks is the number 1 wide receiver in Green Bay, and he's still available in almost half of leagues. So go pick him up. Hello? Giovanni Bernard. Pick him up.
Much better than Jeremy Hill.
Charles Sims. He's a sneaky play. He sometimes has 12-point games. C.J. Anderson rarely has 12-point games. And Ryan Matthews, you guys, we've talked about it. They use both those running backs. These are 4 guys that are available in leagues. Go get them. They're better plays. Don't start any of the tight ends this week. The Chiefs know how to stop the tight ends position better than anybody in the league. Screw you, Daniel Owens. I am so over you. Congratulations on another good game.
Owen Daniels.
Owen Daniels.
I think this is the second week you've done that, and I love that you mess up his name. It's it's on purpose.
I know. It is.
It's disrespect. I love it.
I do. It's I'm so upset by him. I can't even learn his name. Pisses me off. Anyways, the Broncos defense, we talked about it, might have lost a couple key players this week, but you were still playing the Broncos defense. They had 22 fantasy points in week 2 against the Chiefs, and that was it at Arrowhead. So I think it's game on. Let's play them. Sunday night game, Arizona Cardinals 6-2, the Seattle Seahawks 4-4. This is a really tough matchup for the Cardinals, you guys. The only one on the offense that has a nice matchups are the tight ends, and they don't have tight ends. So, if you're really desperate, Jermaine Grisham, that's your guy. Who?
Troy Nicholas, the guy that got 2 touchdowns last week.
Oh, right.
He's only had 3 catches all season.
All season. So that's not nice. Right. Don't tell people to do that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. You never know. It could be a thing. I mean, I'm not playing anybody from Arizona this week, you guys.
I played that guy over Jordan Cameron.
Well, I'd play anybody over Jordan Cameron. It's true, Ashley. It's very true.
Good call.
But yes, Carson Palmer is one of my favorite quarterbacks. I said it earlier in the show. in the league, but I'm looking elsewhere to fill my quarterback roster. Even Fantasy Pros has Kirk Cousins over Palmer this week.
Man, guys.
But they have Carson Palmer 90% over Jay Cutler, which I thought very funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's very interesting. But he could still put up 18 fantasy points. I just don't like this matchup at all. I just don't see it there. I think it's going to be leaning more towards the 15. If you can get a higher ceiling this week with somebody else, you should. As for all the wide receivers, they're all wide receivers 3s this week, you guys. Fitzgerald and Brown are listed as possible. But either way, I am not starting them if I have to. No wide receiver has had double-digit fantasy points against Seattle since week 2. So that's not a fun stat.
It's not good.
Same goes for the running backs, you guys. Chris Johnson is no more than a flex this week, you guys. It stinks, but it's just the reality of it. And you can play the Arizona defense and the kicker, Cantazzaro.
I'm fading the whole game for both sides.
Mm.
I don't want anyone.
Boycotting it. No.
Yeah.
All right. Seahawks.
In sad news, Ricardo Lacquette's neck, he was injured, and he's been released from the hospital following surgery for ligament damage that he had done in his neck. And he also suffered a concussion and a disc injury. And according to Pete Carroll, he will not play again this year.
He's been pitted and welkered.
Yeah, I would assume that's the case with the list of injuries we just said.
Holy shnikes.
He is out, but he was always kind of an interesting play, especially special team wise. But the Seahawks were on bye last week. Let's do a little stats talk. Russell Wilson is not even a top 15 quarterback right now. Marshawn Lynch is not even a top 20 running back. We do not even need to get into the wide receivers. If you've ever listened to this show, then you know that you don't play any of them. And Jimmy Graham barely sneaks in the top 10 for tight ends. That's because the tight end position is always terrible, so it is what it is.
That's crazy.
The only constant is the defense. And this is a bad matchup across all positions. The Cardinals give it the 5th fewest points to quarterbacks, 7th fewest to running backs, 10th fewest to wide receivers, 3rd fewest to tight ends, 15th fewest to kickers, and 3rd fewest to defenses. Like Brandon said, I am not playing anyone from this team. Borderline this entire matchup, other than maybe Chris Johnson. But I don't love it.
It's bad. You can play the defenses, you guys. You can play both defenses. Monday night game: Houston Texans 3-5, the Cincinnati Bengals 8-0.
Warning: this is officially a RBBC running back by committee situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
We were pretty sure it was going to be, but it was confirmed in week 8 before the Houston bye. I'd love for Blue to be the undisputed back, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Don't look now, but Brian Hoyer has scored 17 or more fantasy points in every outing since being named the starter. I know, it's crazy.
It is.
Blows your mind. He was the other guy I compared against, Carson Palmer.
Really?
It was close, but Carson beat Hoyer.
Beat Hoyer out for you.
Yeah, because people still don't believe it, and I get it because it's Brian Hoyer.
I don't know.
Hoyer's no Kirk Cousins in Courtney's book.
No Kirk Cousins.
No Kirk Cousins.
This isn't a great matchup, but neither is next week against the Jets. But I'd play Brian Hoyer in week 12 versus New Orleans.
Oh, heck yeah.
No problem. I'd consider him even at Buffalo. It's a tough place to play, but Buffalo's actually pretty easy against quarterbacks. At Indy, week 15, I'm telling you, if you're streaming quarterbacks,
I'd play Matt Flynn against New Orleans.
there you go.
I'd play Sean Hill against New Orleans. I'm just getting crazy here. Anybody against New Orleans.
I'm telling you,
really.
Brian Hoyer, you heard it here.
Legit.
Probably not first, but maybe first. DeAndre Hopkins obviously is a must start. Too high of an upside, always. It's a tougher matchup, but stop it. Stop. And Nate Washington isn't going away. And that's a good thing for DeAndre Hopkins owners, so don't freak out. He's had 6 or more targets in every game this season. He's scored in both of the outings since he's come back from injuries before the bye. He's a great plug-and-play, and he's an interesting contrarian play in this particular matchup against the Bengals. If you're looking for someone, if you're in daily and you need a cheap guy that might go off, I don't hate Nate Washington.
Are you worried about Cecil Shorts returning? with Nate Washington?
No, because I believe Cecil Shorts will play one game and get hurt again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
I asked you because I own Nate Washington. I know.
yeah. That's what I think. I haven't heard anything that makes me believe that Cecil Shorts is going to have a huge impact. I think they like Nate Washington.
They should make him like him.
They should.
Yeah, I think they genuinely like him.
Yeah. It's
done.
you, Ashley.
Is it time to talk about my favorite ginger?
Yes.
Andy Dalton. His awesomeness has continued. Stop doubting this guy.
Yeah.
Completed 21 of 27 passes for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Browns last week. Andy Dalton has improved from 31% to 52% completions this season when he has thrown balls 20 or more yards downfield, which is great news for the wide receivers on the team. I love him. You should love him too. And you should feel extra confident because he actually showed up in a primetime game.
And that was really exciting.
That
Really
is exciting and huge because primetime has been like his Achilles heel. It has been bad. But you know what hate is going to hate? I love Andy Dalton. If you're on the train, that's your problem.
What's amazing is that he can get that many fantasy. He's not fantasy relevant with only throwing the ball 27 times.
But he completed 20 of them. You look at a lot of these guys, they got 22 out of 44.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's just crazy that he's that productive.
It's because the offense is on all cylinders.
Yeah, and he's passing past 20 yards, which a lot of quarterbacks can't do in the league.
He throws a long ball.
Yeah.
Which is and
Like
he's got
his favorite, Alex Smith.
Yeah, he's my fave.
Exactly. But he's got the receivers to catch the long balls, right? So now that he's got his receiving core finally back and healthy, we're seeing the Andy Dalton that we saw back in 2013 when he was a top 5 quarterback at the end of the season.
It's great.
And he's got Tyler Eifert. I think people could argue that they would rather play Tyler Eifert than Gronk. And I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't. He had 5 catches for 53 yards and 3 touchdowns last week.
Crazy.
His hot streak is still red hot. Andy Dalton loves him in the end zone. He's always looking for him. You have to play Tyler Eifert. Now, Giovanni Bernard had 13 carries for the team high 72 yards and 1 catch for 14 yards. Yet Jeremy Hill still sucks, and they continue to share carries. I cannot get into this as we're at the very end of the show, and this will be a 20-minute hate rant on my part. But Giovanni Bernard is the better back. He looks better. The offense is better when he's out there.
I agree.
Coaching staff, pull it together and start giving him the bulk of the carries versus this split. Give up on the Jeremy Hill situation this year. Let him just be a change of pace back. Probably will do.
Let's just do this. We need Giovanni Bernard. We need Duke Johnson Jr. And we need Danny Woodhead. If we could possibly get rid of all the other running backs on those 3 teams, that would be fabulous because it's pointless. It's pointless.
It is pointless.
These guys are so much more productive. They're harder to cover. Hello?
Now, I will say that the Texans give the 9th most points to quarterbacks, but they give the 12th fewest to wide receivers. But even with that said, I think you can still play Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu, A.J. Green this week. Don't expect magic, but I think you can expect 60 yards and then pray for a touchdown.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah. It
I
could
like
be
them
worse.
all.
It's too bad we're not coaches, ladies, because that's what I feel every time I get done with one of these shows.
I do
Like,
not
you're supposed to
understand.
team.
Whoever is the running back coach for the Bengals, you don't deserve to be in the NFL. That might be harsh. That might be harsh,
Washington.
but ugh.
Washington's the worst.
It
The
is
worst.
The team high is 27 yards off 11 carries. Oh man,
Oh, man.
So
And
bad.
Kirk Cousins is going to blow up this week, you guys. Blow up. Ashley doesn't agree, but this is
I think you'll have an okay.
this is a good bet.
They give up the most points to quarterbacks. So,
You like that? You like that?
oh my gosh, that was a great clip too. I don't know. If Deshaun comes back to full Deshaun, then I do think Kirk Cousins can go off. I would agree there. Where you gotta hope Deshaun is healthy.
Crowder can do it. I'm fine. We're on. It's game on. It's game on. Well, thank you so much for listening to us, you guys. It's week 10. Again, get them out of your lineup. Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, San Diego Chargers, and San Francisco 49ers are on bye. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to hop onto Twitter and tweet us at HerFantasyFB. And you can talk to us on Facebook at HerFantasyFootball. Also, you can ask us questions on our show Saturday night, 8 to 10 Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Give us a call. We're down. We're ready to answer your questions or just chat. You know, talk music. Seems
Call
to
us
be our
at
thing.
1-800-FANTASY. Just
1-800
leave off the
Fantasy.
last 2 letters. I worked it out.
So Fanta.
Fanta.
No, Fantas. No, yeah, Fanta.
Fanta.
XM
1-800
Fanta.
Yeah,
1-800
there you go. 188?
So right.
188 Fanta.
No, 1-800.
1-800 Fanta, you guys. That's it.
XM Fanta.
Okay,
How
excellent.
many times are we going to say this number wrong?
1-800-XM Fanta. See.
Fanta like the drink?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It's easy,
Excellent
guys.
Fanta.
It's easy. Obviously, we can figure it out. We've been doing the show for 10 weeks, so it's fine. No big deal. We don't know who's on the other line from those other numbers we just gave you, but it'll be a good time.
It'll be
Let
great.
us know. Call us in and let us know. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Good luck. Have fun. Until next time, no more faking it.